I just watched this fantastic Lucid Stew video, which you absolutely should watch too. This is the topic I want to speak about, because this actually is like the perfect prime example of exactly what I was talking about in this video right here. I should still make my follow-up of what for some reason I haven't, but I guess this will be my unofficial follow-up. The LA Metroplex desperately needs to increase its density so much. And when you are a big city like this is the main thing I was trying to say. When you're a big city like this in a big metro area, whether or not you count those aspects, the housing aspects or not, you need to build up and stop sprawling. It's the dumbest shit to keep extending your urban growth boundary and then growing into that and then requesting another expansion, which they just give to you. The fun fact is that a lot of these cities, especially the core major cities in a metroplex or a metro area, a gigalopolis, obviously are landlocked by other surrounding cities. So their only ability to expand out would actually be to buy those cities outright, annex them. Places like Anaheim, obviously Los Angeles, and so on and so forth, also do not have the fucking choice but to build up. So if they want to increase, in fact, they're even, by the way, their tax revenue, their tax income, by leeching off of us, all they have to do is go up in density. Hey, what a fucking miraculous conclusion to make, huh? Isn't that interesting how difficult that was to figure out? Why not just do that? So, this is the idea, supposedly, that Anaheim has as their central, their downtown heart and core. They want to make a center city. And here is where they're doing it. It's the rough outline. Obviously, didn't get exact because these are here. But you get the idea. It's between here, then. This is supposed to be their downtown core. But if you actually look at the footage he got all around there, or even look at, Street View or whatever else, it's terrible. Because look at this. You have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, congratulations. You max out at 6 stories. This is an older building, so that doesn't count. These look pretty modern, so sure, they may count. But probably not, because these are clearly the newest, right? And these are all 5-story buildings. 4 or 5-story buildings. Which is just absolutely inexcusable. How can you cap it at 5 stories? Like, what in the fuck are you doing? You're like, oh, look at us. We're building needed housing and addressing it by building these high density, but it's not high density. If you're in this massive of a gigalopolis, this is not high density. It's almost an insult to consider it even higher low density. It's so low. You need to build way higher. So, what I really want, I've been on this rant now for basically 11 minutes about, is to lead up to this. What would make the most sense for, in this case, Anaheim to do is instead, in this triangle, again, expand it all the way down through here, right? Just align it perfectly with this freeway, and then right here where it continues, do this. And if you have to stop at this road, stop it at that road, because I think that that's actually a city boundary. So you can just stop it right there. Great. Okay, cool. This is your central district. Instead of building with a clear restriction, in fact, you can tell they're all the same height. Look at this. They're all the same height. These are going to be the same height. What are you doing? Like, instead of that, how about you build with, and again, this is a compromise, because I know you have to compromise in these situations, because the city and the big business benefactors and the rich fucks are going to be livid if you try to go anywhere above even 5 stories, because I guarantee they're pissed about the 5 stories too. So, here's your compromise. Increase the density. Minimal is 10 stories. You can build no less than 10 stories with what little remains of room for redevelopment. So no lower than 10 stories, no higher than 20 stories. And then your little CBD here, your little downtown that you're trying to make, okay? 10 to 20 stories. Max is 20, low is 10. You can't go lower than 10, you can't go higher than 20. And in fact, try to give incentives to developers to now develop or redevelop older properties into these higher density units. Then, on the opposite side, it could even be only 2 blocks east, say to here, because that looks like that's 2 blocks. If you, again, you'd have to compromise. So 2 blocks seems reasonable. Maybe 3, you could possibly squeeze that out of them, which would be really cool. Probably not. From whatever this is in this freeway, obviously, you would have higher density as well. But that could be where you have your max height limit at 8 stories and your low at 5, where you can't go lower than 5, but you can't go taller than 8. Again, as a compromise, and also so that it makes sense and it also looks semi-aesthetic in direct comparison to your central district that you're going to say go between 10 and 20 stories. LA, you're going to really try to make sure that they obviously restrict, but I guarantee that if you go outside of the main core of LA that we know now is their high density area, and you expand it well outside of their CBD, you have endless development opportunity to be able to instead require the downtown CBD, the main core that we all know, and maybe extend it a little bit and then say, you can't build lower than 30 stories here, but don't build higher than, say, I don't know, 60 stories. Technically, you could probably say that that actually would be more lucrative, not just for business interests, but obviously also for just in general having more space to do more with, and capitalizing on that space restrictions that you have because you can't expand the city. And then you could reason, therefore, 30 but lower than 40. So say, I don't know, 30 or even 25 to 30, 35 stories for the ring outside of that, for a handful of blocks all the way around. And then obviously the same thing further out. Now, obviously you have to deal with terrain, you have to deal with other things like that, other geology, other different issues that obviously would prevent you from doing true rings. That outside of those little restrictions, which are, I think, common sense. Like, I shouldn't have to mention them because it's a no shit Sherlock type of statement, but that's like the perfect opportunity. And so Anaheim here has the perfect opportunity to be able to do something similar. Obviously, they're a smaller city, they're further outside of LA, so you could reason 20 stories as your max for this yellow highlighted area there, right? The central business district as you've seen. You could reason that easily. And then you could also reason no lower than 10 there. And then again, a handful of blocks out, whatever you have to compromise, hopefully make sure you do not give in lower than 2 blocks outside of all the outer boundaries. So the freeways and everything on the other sides of them from this CBD, from this downtown core you're trying to redevelop and build into this central area that everybody lives and congregates in. Make it so that it now is encouraged, enticing developers, there's incentives for them to build up as well, but between the 5 and 8 categories. At that point, it's a start. Like, to say that this, though, but I've sort of shown you, right? These clear 5-story restrictions where you can be no taller than 5 stories, everything is identically 5 stories for some weird reason. That is absolutely inexcusable. And in fact, I'm going to try to get this frame that I actually accidentally captured, just so I can put into context what I think is going on here. So, one of the main people, if not the biggest group that's going to be against this kind of idea and proposal, is going to be the big business benefactors that are mainly whoever owns the baseball stadium, so the Angels of Anaheim, the A's, as well as the Disney World, also wrongfully known as Disney, /ESPN, insert every last possible media conglomerate you can think of here that they pretty much own. They don't like you seeing into their property because you didn't pay. And non-paying eyes, if people can't afford it, don't deserve to be able to see inside. But you notice the height restrictions, right? Even the 6-story building, you can't see into the stadium. And because of the parking, they're going to guarantee they don't take away any of their parking. Guarantee it. They're never going to let go any of their parking spaces, even though this one's empty. And it's actually pretty filled, so I'm assuming there's probably a game going on there. Maybe it's just before a game, probably. You could reason to redevelop a lot of this then. The idea is that they do not want you. This is why this development doesn't take place on this side of that, whatever the fuck's going on here that I told you is either canal or a freeway, right? They do not want, I'm just realizing I'm not showing you that. I am via screenshot, but they aren't developing that. And I guarantee whoever owns this franchise, this baseball franchise, this MLB stadium, is going to be livid if they try to propose even a 5-story set of buildings over here. Even though they still probably couldn't necessarily see into there. They couldn't get a view of the field, certainly. They don't want people to be able to get a free view of the game or be able to watch the game for free. Even though that's free advertising, by the way. It is actually brilliant to allow for it because you guarantee yourself you're going to gain a lot more fans, a lot more viewers, technically, a lot more cheers, and actually from a higher vantage point, which if you know anything about audio, the higher you are, the more your voice carries. And if you're cheering or you're yelling or whatever the fuck it is, you're going to hear that even better, especially considering baseball stadiums are like a bowl. So actually, it's the perfect opportunity to get free advertising. People are going to be taking pictures. They're going to be taking little video clips. They're going to post on social media these cool moments that they caught from their apartment or, the little community areas or something. Whatever it is, it's actually a brilliant idea to invest in this kind of stadium district to where you actually allow people to be able to live and actually high enough up they can actually see somewhat into the stadium. Unless you build like into Narnia, there's no way in hell, heaven or high water, you're going to be able to actually see the entire fucking field. Home plate's back, obviously, in the little crevice, right? In the little dip. So naturally, nobody's going to see it unless they're on the other side of this freeway in this case. But I guarantee long story longer again, as usual for me, the point is that this is why they restrict that, specifically the housing especially. They restrict it to be this short. Because look, it's probably a story, if not a story and a half, 2 stories shorter than the roof over the grandstands in the stadium. So they don't want anybody to even have the slightest chance to get a view of the game. And that clearly includes the screen. They don't want that. I guarantee that's why everything that's new development in the housing department is restricted to 5 stories. Because this fuck is saying absolutely not. We can't allow the people who don't pay for our games to catch anything. Best they get is audio, and they probably hate that too. Because they want to make their money. And to them, this is encroachment on their profitability. You don't do that. And they will fight tooth and nail and spend as much money as it takes to prevent it. It's fucking terrible. Of course, unless it's high-end luxury condominiums and housing that they can invest in, then they'll do it. Because they're rich, they can afford it. So they're probably actually associated with the Disney program. So why the fuck not, right? You get the idea. So I guarantee that's why it's 5 stories. You can tell it's 5, maybe if you're lucky, 6 stories on every single building here. Like this is 6 stories. Congratulations. One single portion of your buildings is 6 stories. This is the dumbest shit, dude. But this is what they think they need to do now by upscaling anywhere in this country. You live anywhere in any of the bigger metro areas, you're going to see this all the time. It like stops at 6 stories. You're lucky if you even get a 6th story. Most of the time, they're so against anything beyond 5 stories. It's disgusting. And it's got to change. Like, it has to go up further than this. This is disgusting. But I digress.